Welcome to this episode of Time to Press Pause, real life stories from the C-suite. I'm your host, Ellen Williams, CEO of The Salient Strategist, and today I'm speaking with Scott Ballard. We discuss how valuable it is to find your true calling and the crucial role that your mindset plays in all aspects of your life. Scott shares two fascinating stories, one about exiting his business through acquisition, and a personal story of his challenging path to changing self-beliefs. Scott Ballard is CEO and owner of Confidence Coach LLC. Scott is the answer to the person that has already experienced success and feels like an imposter. They feel lonely and are honestly afraid because they don't know their own God-given identity. Scott serves as a trusted advisor to leaders, business owners, CEOs, and entrepreneurs who are living a life outside their true identity and want to live from their true identity. His clients experience freedom, hope, commitment, purpose, and have taken quantum leaps in their businesses and lives by living out their God-given abilities. Scott's secret weapon is his patent execution of leading people to what every person knows they should be doing. Hi, Scott. Welcome to Time to Press Pause.
Glad to be here. Excited to have this conversation today.
I'm really looking forward to this conversation. You and I met on LinkedIn and we had some scheduling back and forth. You rescheduled, I rescheduled. It's the way things go. And so I'm really thrilled that we are here today, and I am looking forward to hearing your Press Pause story.
Yeah, I'm excited to share it. It's very meaningful, and it also applies to what I do now, came out of my pause, which makes this the ideal kind of conversation to talk about. A lot to say in a very short period of time, but I'm excited to share that. So my pause story really came as I started a company and built that company from our kitchen table and $100 to the third largest seller of that product in the United States. And we operated and sold into 42 states over time. And it's a business in the insurance industry that, Ellen, just to be really honest with you, I didn't ever see not doing that business or being in that business. We had done a lot of other businesses and they had not worked out. They had failed. We had learned a lot, but this one really was not only good, but it was incredibly profitable. We just seemed to have good timing. Everything worked out really well. But after 18 years of that, our industry was dramatically impacted by the federal government changing the laws around the product that we had. And it came to our attention that in the next couple of years that there'd be a federal law and that would impact us and basically make our business, the financial model, the selling model, basically obsolete. So when we found that out, okay, what do we do now? Long story short, we were very fortunate to sell our company to somebody else in the industry. So we had this great transaction. We had this great exit. We did really well financially, but my pause began the next morning after the transaction closed and the money showed up in the bank. And this is really why I do what I do today. But I never thought, Ellen, about what happens after. So we had time and money, and we were at a stage in our life where our kids were on their own or in college or university or living elsewhere. And I didn't have a plan. And so the pause came because I didn't know what to do. We were in a very unique situation where we could do kind of anything or what we wanted to do. As that pause settled in and I realized that my baby, this business that for 21 years that I'd built and grown and loved and all that, he was gone. What am I going to do? And so when that hit on me, the thing I thought was, okay, I don't know what the next step is, but what am I going to do while I'm pausing, to use your word? What could be productive? What I did was I started to partner with people and take young adults to third world countries. We would go to Africa, we'd go to India and work at an orphanage that was just for handicapped kids, mentally and physically handicapped. 100 kids lived in this orphanage. And I would take a group of young people and we would just go serve there for 3 or 4 weeks and learn about what the rest of the world is experiencing. And the interesting thing about that, as I did that, as I'm waiting, because I never felt like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do the rest of my life, but I want to do that. So they're long flights back from that part of the world, 20, 30 hours. So I'd be sitting on this plane and I would say, okay, God, I'm in a pause right now. I'm not sure what to do next or where to go next, but I know that you know, and you'll let me know. So I kept asking that question. I didn't hear any answer. A couple of years go by, and I've taken maybe 500, 600, 700 people to different places around the world to serve and to really learn what the rest of the world lives like and to give back. And that felt good in the moment. And it felt like that was a good temporary thing. But whenever I'd get back, my wife would say, okay, what are we going to do now? Or what's the plan or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm in a pause. And after a couple of years, I came back, I got a voicemail, a message from somebody in my old industry. And he had a question. He said, is there any possibility that you could come down to Dallas and you could just spend a day with me? I'm struggling in my company with leadership, with people, getting people in the right seats, all these things. And he said, just as a favor, would you do that? I went and did that and spent a day. I'm still in my pause. I still don't have any idea what I'm doing. I'm still waiting. So I go down and spend a day with David. He's driving me back to the airport. And he looks at me and goes, okay, what did you see? What insight can you give me? He goes, you ran such a great organization. You guys grew. You had the highest retention. You had all these things. Like, what am I missing? And I said, well, you're my friend. And he goes, no, I want you to be honest with me. Really? Are you sure you want me to be honest? Are you sure you want the truth? And he goes, please. He goes, I'm really frustrated. I can't seem to figure it out. I'm so in it. I can't figure it out. I can't see what's going on. So I tell him 3 things. We get to the airport. I'm about to jump out of the car because it was pretty hard. It was like, this is what's happening. Can't you see that? And this person's in the wrong seat. And he takes it, and I'm getting out of the car, and he goes, this is so helpful. He goes, when can you come back? Well, I've got a trip. I'm going to Africa, in 2 weeks with a group of college students. We're going to build a hospital. And he's like, no, he goes, this is more helpful than all the other consultants, advisors, all these people that I've had for years. And he goes, they never saw any of this. And you saw it like on the first day. And I'm like, yeah, but I was in the industry and I know you. And he goes, no, he goes, you've got to come back. And I go, well, I don't know what I'm doing now, David. I'm doing this stuff, but I'm kind of in a timeout. That's what I used to call it. I'm like at halftime or in timeout. Like I'm in a timeout. Like, I don't know. I'm waiting for God to tell me what I'm supposed to do now. And he goes, well, please. I get home and get another voicemail. He's called my wife because he knows her. And he's like, okay, when can Scott come back down? So anyway, long story short, while I'm pausing, while I'm in timeout, while I'm doing this, what happened, Ellen, is that was the beginning of the end of the pause. By being patient while pausing and waiting for the sign, the signal, whatever you want to call it, being patient during pausing is a really hard thing for somebody like me that is driven. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a doer. I'm a risk taker. But I think those 3 years really were the healthiest thing for me to slow down enough to go, okay, what am I going to do that's going to make a difference and leave a legacy for the rest of my life? Because I got to pause at a very young age. I was in my mid 40s, and that's very unusual. And I didn't have financial or time constraints. I didn't have to be somewhere or do something. I didn't have any of that. what I did during that time was I really tried to consistently say, okay, what's the plan? What am I going to be happy and feel good about at the end of my life? If I have 40 more years, let's say just roughly, what does that look like? And what could that be? And what it ended up being is what I do now. And that's I'm a trusted advisor for entrepreneurs and I mainly work with their mindset. And what the pause taught me is you're thinking about your thinking, your mindset, and being aware of your thinking and how it affects you is the most powerful thing. And taking that time to actually know that, learn myself, listen to God, listen to other people, my wife in particular, but other people really helped me now go to this next season of my life and really experience what working in your genius or your best ability, your unique ability, whatever you want to call it, your identity is like. So for the last 20 years, I've done what I do. There's never been a day it's felt like work. I get to do this. It is a business, absolutely, yes. But because of the pause, it's more of a mission and a vision and aligned to my identity and my abilities than anything I've ever done in my life. And life experiences that I would have never had if I didn't consider the pause. And that's the power of the pause.
Life experiences of everything you spoke about. And I definitely want to unpack a few things that you said. First of all, I love that you said that you had a bunch of businesses and you had failed and really learned some lessons. But the business that took off was the one you started at your kitchen table with $100. So it's not always that you need the capital, it's that you need the wisdom or the lessons or the understanding of why things failed and how to do it differently the next time. And that's a great story in and of itself. But I do want to tap into some of the things you said. You had time and money, but no plan. Looking back on it, did you miss an opportunity to plan while you were exiting? Or was your focus strictly on that exit and you identified the fact that you would deal with what's next when what's next came?
Yeah, at the scale of our company at that point, exiting was an all hands on deck major undertaking that took close to 18 months. We're in a very regulated industry, a lot of people involved in the transaction. It went smoothly, but it takes everything, Ellen, at that level to get it over the finish line. So, no, I would love to say that I thought about it or considered it or whatever. I didn't really have the bandwidth. And nobody really pulled me aside or threw that question at me like, okay, so what's the plan? Getting it done was a pretty big effort and just really grateful for that. And it was also very stressful because, the negotiation was very intense. Although it went well, it's still a lot of money. People get really sideways very easily. You have a lot of attorneys involved, the M&A team, like all of those things are pretty all consuming. Yeah. I mean, that sounds strange now sitting here, but in the storm of it, you kind of was like, okay, everything to get this done. And then the ending was so sudden. I was kind of numb. But what struck me was the following Monday, waking up and thinking, okay, I'm going to go to the office like I need to. No, I couldn't, because our agreement was we could have no contact with the people. That kind of took the air on myself. It's like, because I really cared about the people. We had an amazing team, obviously, all this. And just dropping it that cold turkey instigated immediately. You just went into pause mode. I don't think anybody's fully prepared for that. I've talked to a lot of people that have gone through that, selling of a company. I try to help people now when they come to me about that and make them think about it.
Yeah, the world of M&A. I can imagine that it was all encompassing for sure. You explained it well, that when it's done, it's almost like
Mm.
a new life, right? You're in a new world.
Oh, it is. It is because everything you've known and done for 21 years, anything to do with work related, and even your social circle is all gone.
Wow. So what led you to the next phase while you were
Yeah.
waiting? So you almost had like a pause within a pause. Okay, now I'm gonna pause doing anything because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next. But
Yeah.
you wanted to give back, and what
Yeah.
prompted that process for 3 years of traveling young people around the planet?
My parents were amazing people. My dad was the hardest working person I've ever known, but very simple life, rural Oregon. But they always were generous. They always gave back. My dad would stop alongside the road and help a stranger fix their car or bring them gas, or we always had people staying or living with us. We lived in a farmhouse that was 100 years old. It wasn't like we had some massive, and I just knew that that was a better way to live. And there's something about being generous and serving people that is just good for your soul.
So giving back, and of course being faith-based, it all is
Yeah.
obviously shining through. But
Yeah.
this wasn't your calling, so to speak. And as you were waiting for direction, and you said you didn't hear anything that first time, and then lo and behold, there was voicemail. So you heard something, right, that started to filter into something bigger. Quite often, I see where people see something in me or you that we don't always see in ourselves. And
Mm.
and that can be very eye-opening. So you said that you're now doing things that align with your abilities. And some of the other conversations I've had, we've talked about transferable skills, because I suspect you didn't take everything from that long time business, but you took those things that, to use your words, were meaningful and in alignment, and moved to this phase where you are now. I liked that you said that you're helping people work with their genius. And I think that's what happened to you.
Mhm.
So you talked a lot about mindset. Can you talk a little more about mindset? I'm always intrigued by that. And
Yeah.
it's been something I has been a thread through my career, but I would love to hear your approach to mindset.
I wrote a book about it. My learning and understanding the profound truth about mindset started when I was 7 years old. Now, most people go, okay, that's not possible. Well, actually is, and it's my story. So at 7 years of age, I was obviously a first grader, super excited to go to the little school in this old town in Southern Oregon that I grew up in. Got to school, got to see all my buddies, just as my mother would say, I was the happiest kid in the world. And a couple of months into that, I realized that I wasn't learning like the other kids. And in this small town at this point, at the beginning of the school year and at the end, Ellen, the teacher would come and have dinner with your family to tell what they're going to teach about, talk a little bit about how you're doing, whatever. So the teacher comes to dinner at my parents' house and explains all this. And at the end, she says this statement to my dad in particular: Scott needs to buckle down and work harder so he can get caught up. My dad was if anything else, he was a very strong disciplinarian and a very hardworking person. So he gave me the look. The look was, you will do this. Now, remember, we're in the 60s. So we're not today, but we're living in a world that is a little bit different. And I certainly responded to that. But what happened by Christmas time was that I just wasn't learning like the other kids. And so the teacher became really frustrated, and she took my desk and put it in the back corner of the classroom and said, "You're a dunce and you'll never be anything and you're wasting my time. So you'll sit here from now on." And this gets to the whole idea of mindset. My mistake was at that point, I believed her because she was a person of authority in my life. So I took on the belief, the mindset that I was stupid, I was worthless, and I'd never be anything. So at the end of the school year, she came back to have dinner again. It went bad. And then it got worse at the end because she said, I'm going to suggest and that Scott do first grade over again. And so immediately shame then was entered into my life, into my belief, because all my buddies were going to second grade and I was going to do first grade again. So I did first grade again with her. It was worse the second time. And all during this time, my mom and grandmother were praying and that we would be able to find some help for me. So I went to all these doctors and specialists and psychologists. Nobody had any idea how to help me. And some people said, well, he's so mentally retarded or not proper, he'll never be able to do anything. Like doctors would say this in front of me to my mom and my grandmother. So I became very suicidal. I became very depressed. I ran away from home, got into fights. I tried to kill myself. All these things happened. And then a really interesting thing happened. My mom and grandmother were at this mothers meeting, kids that had kids in school. And this lady walked in. She heard my mom and my grandmother talking about what was going on with me. And she said, tell me more about your son. We're from New York City. Husband got a job in this town of 10,000 and we just moved here. And I was wondering what I would be doing here. I just finished a program at NYU, the first program in the country of how to teach kids with dyslexia how to read and write. And she said, I think your son is dyslexic. I would like to be his tutor. This is all about mindset. So for the next 6 years, I would meet with her every day except for Christmas and Easter. And she would start each of my tutoring sessions with this: Scott, God didn't make any mistake with you. He has an amazing plan for your life, and you're going to do something very significant in the world. She would say at the beginning and at the end. Now, for the first year, Ellen, I thought, this lady's crazy. She doesn't know who I am. I can't read. I can't write. I believed the lie. But over time, because she was so convicted by, the way she would say it was just like, wow, okay, settle down. But she knew that it was about my thinking. She knew it was what I believed. And I believed a lie. And she was trying to unravel that. And she did. And that's why I think about your thinking is so important. And exchanging the lies that we've all believed that are not true for the truth is the most powerful thing you can do in your life. And most of us never get to the point where we actually tell the truth about the lies that we're believing. And then therefore, by believing them, they become our identity. And when they become our identity, then they show up into the world and what we do in our work and our families and all of our life. And then we wonder why we're so unhappy or we're so unfulfilled and we don't have purpose and meaning. And so that's why I do what I do today, because you'd be amazed how many entrepreneurs and CEOs and leaders are still like the 7-year-old that I was. They're still trying to prove, they're still trying to be something that somebody else said. They never feel like they're enough. All these things, the imposter syndrome, all of it. So that's our work. So for 20 years, we've coached tens of thousands of people through that whole process that I did at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years of age.
Without a doubt, that's your calling.
Yep.
You just didn't know it back then.
It's not work. It is what I have to do, what I get to do, what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Mindset it really is the foundation of the way you live your life. I believe that's a belief. I'm sure there are some beliefs I have that probably could be revised, but I totally understand what you're saying. I have lived through much of that, always a work in progress, but I think I'm on most of the other side of that. I had one conversation on this podcast where he talked a lot about external validation and how do you get past that? How do you stop looking for someone to continue to boost you, right? And just have that mindset that you are who you need to be and you are everything you need. And it's a journey for sure. And it's wonderful that you're helping people through that for at least half your career, right? You had quite a long career the first time as well. I think that's wonderful. I appreciate everything that you've shared, your story, 2 stories. I have one last question for you, Scott. For other leaders, what advice do you have when they would identify it might be time for them to press pause?
And I would answer this way, to ask the question that what is the pause about and why is the pause important for the rest of your life? Pause should be about the end of your life. Pause should have the greatest impact of the end of your life. If you connect pause to what it is that's the most meaningful and purposeful for you when you take your last breath, then you're pausing correctly. If not, you've missed the point.
You've missed the point of pausing. Pausing has a greater value than just the pause itself. Again, your wisdom is powerful, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing everything you have. I've certainly enjoyed our conversation and have a little soul searching to do, I think, after this. But thank you again for being here today.
Thanks, Ellen. This was fun. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Time to Press Pause. If you're interested in learning more about Scott, please visit confidencecoach.org. If you're interested in learning more about me, please visit thesalientstrategist.com. And please listen again wherever you listen to your podcasts.